So I woke up today. Yesterday I went and picked up my future mother-in-law and drove her down. That was great. And then me and my fiance and her met up. We had some nice food. They took naps for the whole day, like thank God, because they're both kind of worn out and tired. And so I got to work on some stuff. My sister's a real estate agent, so I made some stuff for her, just for her to be able to have some extra fancy professional stuff for her advertisements. And it's a good training for me as I'm getting back into media production and things like that. I don't really even have to do media in photography, like marketing solutions or anything, but just because the job I have is actually really, really nice. But you just realize that I think really quickly that when you love to do something and you want that to be the one thing that you do forever, you can never get away from it. So, but I love to do photography and media solutions full time, and elopements and weddings and things like that. Yes, definitely would. But right now it's just not in the cards, and until I get the clientele, I guess I just have to wait and so push harder. But I'm still waiting on my 18 f2 from MPB, and this got me thinking last night, because there are only 3 lenses that I think I think any X Pro 3 user just needs these 3 lenses, and honestly any of the X Pro line, the X Pro 1, the X Pro 2, because I had them for the X Pro 1. That is the 18 f2, for the reason being, I know it's not that fast. I know the 16 1.4 you can get it, but the 18 f2 is cost effective, number 1. Number 2, it has amazing character. Number 3, it's sharp enough. Number 4, having the f2 aperture instead of the 1.4 isn't really that much, especially whenever you've got so many people shooting on Fuji cameras that love the f2 Fujicron lenses. Don't complain about the f2 there. Number 3, the biggest reason why I like the 18 f2, and I feel like that's a lens that if you get that lens, you're covered as far as the wide angle side, is because that lens is multi-purpose. It's wide enough to where you can shoot a landscape and shoot documentary work, but also it's not too wide to where it super distorts people's faces if you want to get closer and shoot environmental portraits. I think it's a fantastic lens, sharp in the center. So I've never met anyone, I don't know that too many people, and I've never taken too many photos where you're putting someone for a portrait on the far right or far left third. So 18 f2 is probably my number 1 lens to get for the for the wide angle, the lens you should get for the X Pro 3. The 16 1.4 is the next one, or the next wide angle. Like that's the runner-up. I think the 16 1.4 is a fantastic lens. It has amazing quality. Unless you're into street photography, and you wanted a wide angle lens, I'd get the 16 2.8. But the 1.4 is going to allow you more to do. Because that sharpness corner to corner, I just think of people that want to shoot landscape with 24 millimeter effective focal length. The second lens, of course, the 35 1.4, hallelujah, fantastic lens. Honestly, this on the X Pro 1 with that original sensor, or the original X Pro sensor, is banging. There's something different about this. The further along Fujifilm cameras go, the X-Trans sensor still gives it that little bit of difference, and that's to where you're like, okay, I can recognize there's something special about this. But they continue to want to tweak and create better quality and image quality, and across the field tune up things and make colors more realistic. And so it doesn't they're making it more towards the median, because they want consumers to purchase, which is fine because we end up editing our RAWs anyway. But for people that shoot in JPEG, and like myself, who I shoot in JPEG plus RAW most of the time and just grab the RAWs, use the JPEGs, with film recipes, not that big of a deal either. But the 35 1.4 is amazing. 50 millimeter focal length. Henri Cartier-Bresson was, that's the focal length that he chose, that he did a lot of his famous work on. A lot of famous photographers did the 50 millimeter focal length, especially film photographers, with that being a kit lens for a lot of people, a lens that came with a lot of things. I even think about, because I'm looking at, so for a film camera, the Canon P with the, I believe they have a 50 millimeter 1.4, so I'm trying to match those up for under 500 buckarooskies. And but yeah, the 50 millimeter focal length is I think an essential focal length. It's something that you can shoot street photography on because it's not too far. It's great for portrait work, but I think it's It's a great documentary focal length. I think it's not too, an in-your-face focal length. In the size of this thing, when you take off the lens hood, I think that's a really good size. And that's why the 18-2 is so nice too. It's not a pancake like the 27 2.8, but it's nice. And I'll talk in a little bit about the 18 millimeter Mark II that's going to come out this year according to Fuji's roadmap, which I'm not too excited about. And then the last lens that I think that, you know, if you have an X Pro camera, that if you get this third lens, you'll be covered for anything you want to do. You can do portrait photography, family photography, documentary work. You can do weddings. You can do, you know, your engagements. You can do your event photography. The last lens that I believe that you need, and if you get these three lenses, this is your holy trinity. I'm not a zoom guy, by the way. I don't think that the X Pro line of cameras does well with zooms, just because they're really big, and I think that, you know, primes are best on this, especially whenever you're talking about, because I use the OVF, and so zooming out, and if you have pieces of the lens sticking out further, you're kind of blocking yourself. But the 90 millimeter f2, I believe, is the if you get that lens, 135 millimeter effective focal length, great for portraits. You get a lot of great compression in your shots. But it's just a fantastic lens, one that you have more than enough reach to get out there and get shots if you're doing weddings and things like that. I think if you have those three cameras, and if you want a second camera, pair it up with an X100T at a 35 millimeter focal length, that 23 f2. Good enough to get the job done. But if you can have that 90 f2 on there, and as soon as you want a wide shot, switch that X100T, bang a couple out. I think that could be a setup for for anyone who's doing anything professional. And I think the X Pro line is the ultimate professional camera from Fujifilm. I know for video, there's different things, but once the XH2 comes out, with the rumors that I've seen, I'm pretty sure that's going to really place the XT series. That's going to be placed as their you're gonna start to see the XT isn't. I know the XT isn't supposed to be their flagship, but you're gonna really see it's not their flagship, because with what I'm seeing about the XH2, that's probably gonna come out in 2022. For video work, it's gonna blow away everything else that Fuji's ever brought. It's gonna completely blow it away. For photography work, it's going to be amazing. And the X Pro 4, because of that and the things that they'll do, it looks like Fujifilm with their roadmap is going to start going back towards the line of the X Pro line being the first ones to get, or the one to get the new toys with all the new sensors. With the X Pro 1, the X Pro 2, they were the first ones to have the brand new sensor. And they were the first ones to have certain qualities to them. With the X Pro 3, Fujifilm started seeing that people loved more video-centric things, and so the XT line became, with the XT4, basically like the flagship. But what happened was this: everyone flocked to the XH1 whenever it went on sale, and you can get it with the 16 to 55 for like $2,000. Everyone flocked to that. And what happened was this amazing thing where people started realizing the XH1 is a badass camera. It is an amazing camera. It has IBIS. It's cheap. The body feels great. It's got a better grip. I mean, honestly, even whenever you put the battery grip on there, it feels even better. As a former H1 owner, I miss it. And I actually have been. So last night I looked for an XH1. Versus buying the 90 f2, and I was putting those up together, because with the XH1, if I actually wanted to get back into videography and things like that, it's got everything that I need for me to be able to do that. I get to get the XH1. I manual focus with everything. I've got a 50 millimeter focal length. I've got a 28 millimeter focal length. Those are the two things that I need in order to record the type of videos that I would like to record professionally. And so, I was looking at between that and the 90 f2, because I can do video work on the X Pro 3. Flipping down the screen isn't actually that big of a deal for me whatsoever, and I do everything handheld, so it's not a huge difference. But the X Pro camera just feels amazing in the hand. I don't think there's any way to really explain it to where people understand it unless you've owned it. And if you have an XH1, you are the luckiest person on the earth, because if you try to get those right now, I mean, people are like, you can still get them about $700, $800 used, but I mean, people are very, very those fly off the shelves. I was looking at 2 yesterday and had them wish lists on eBay, and within 3 hours, they were both gone. So fantastic cameras for the money. That's probably the best camera to get if you're getting into Fujifilm and you're more focused on videography, even with photography, because I took some amazing shots on that. If you're focused more on videography, especially after the updates that it's gotten, that's the camera to get, because you can pair that up with a fantastic OIS lens and you'll be set to go. So the other thing I want to talk about, besides the 3 lenses that I think you should get for Fujifilm, the fact that the XH2 is going to bring the XH line back to the flagship of Fujifilm, and how I'm excited for that, is that according to Fujifilm's roadmap, in 2021 we're supposed to get 1 more lens. So we've already gotten, I believe, the man, correct me if I'm wrong, honestly, it might be the 70-300. We've already got the 27 2.8 Mark II. We got our XE4. We got the 50mm 1.0 last year, which was supposed to come out in 2021, is what I believe the roadmap says, but there's one other lens, and that is the Fujifilm XF 18mm 1.8 WR. So we will have another 18mm lens, that 28mm focal length that I believe is so fantastic for documentary, and I think that that lens is going to sell. It's going to do great. Being 1.8 inside, besides f2, all the bokeh whores are going to really rush to that lens. They're going to be super excited for it. But the thing that gets me about it, that I'm not super excited for, because I know it has weather, it's said to have weather sealing. It's 1.8, so it's a little bit faster, you know, and it's supposed to be a new formula, which I don't know if that's good or bad. But the issue that I have is this: it's going to be at least the size of the 50mm 1.4, and that's the one thing that takes it away from me. Is the reason why I love the 18mm f2 is because if I throw that on my X Pro 3 without a lens, or even on my X Pro 1 without a lens, it still felt pancake. It still, golly, it still felt pancake. I gotta get water. Hold on. I'm doing yard work, dude, and I think it's got me parched. I'm a loud ass gulper. The 18mm f2 still felt like a pancake lens, and it felt still compact, and I prefer that over the 27 f2 because it's a beautiful focal length, but it's too close to 50mm. And at 2.8, why would I jump on that when I can jump on an 18 f2 use that's going to last, that looks fantastic, and you know, shoot a focal length I'm more comfortable with. But if it's going to be the size of the 35, and I'm guessing it might be a little bit heavier, it kind of loses that, you know, little bit of cuteness, the portability, just a little bit, which I'm not knocking it. I don't think it's stupid. I don't think it's dumb. But if I'm being serious, it's not something I'm super excited for. It doesn't make me want to switch to the 18 1.8. Honestly, though, even the weather resistance isn't really that exciting for me. The one reason about getting the 90 f2 was I would actually have a weather resistant lens. And so boom, it starts to rain, plop on the 90 f2, or just pull out the plastic bag for whatever else I'm shooting for. But yeah, that's my stuff for cameras. You know, I really... I really think that for the X Pro line of cameras, and honestly any Fujifilm camera, if you get the, and even if you're doing video, unless you're doing talking head like this, I manual focus a lot, and I really don't know too many people for videography that actually did or do autofocus, and they rely on that for recording videos with any system, even with Sony. So I believe the 18 f2, the 35 1.4, and the 90 f2 are the 3 lenses that with any Fujifilm camera, if you grab these 3, unless you have a specific need like sports photography or something where you're having to shoot far, or maybe you want the 18 to the super zoom, I forgot what it is, 18 to 300, 18 to 200, 18 to 250, 18 to 9000, super zoom for landscape, you know, I think those are the 3 to get. I think if you get those 3 lenses over your lifetime with your body, you'll be able to do more than enough in any situation for any job that you have professionally, video work or photo work. And even more, I am excited about the XH2. I can't wait for Fujifilm to bring back that flagship line and to really solidify it as its flagship. I'm excited about things it's talking about with internal recording, with 10-bit, about all the improvements for the sensor, for the focusing, everything for the video work, and even for the photography. I'm just really excited about that camera. And then the 18 1.8, I'm excited for Fuji to release another lens, but it's not something that I'll look at because I can't imagine that being at 1.8, it steers me away from the f2. And I know, when it comes out, every reviewer is gonna be like, this is an amazing lens, get this over the 18 f2, it's gonna be, you know, it's weather resistant, it's got, you know, you can get more light, but I don't think the cost will outweigh anything, especially with the size and the weight. I think I'm going to stick with the 18 f2. Other than that, Man, I feel like I have to sneeze when I'm not sneezing. Yeah, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Holy shite. Dude, I started watching clips of that last night because I couldn't sleep on HBO Max. Whoa, that thing looks badass. So I'm gonna have to definitely check that out. Shout out to Zack Snyder, because everything I read from Reddit forums is he completely saved the DC Cinematic Universe, DCCU. Yeah, the DCCU. So shout out to Zack Snyder. You're the greatest Snyder we've ever had. I put you above Rob Snyder now, so I'll drink to that. Anyway, thanks guys, have a good one.